November 13th, which means the runoff elections, originally set for November, will now be moved to December 11th.
All right, here's a look at power outages across the region. This map comes from the Louisiana Public Service Commission, and they have been monitoring the outages since the storm. Right now, just over 19% of customers, or about 400,000 people in the state, are without power. But if you look at those areas hit hardest by the storm, that percentage jumps into the 90s. We'll have more information on outages coming up.
And more lights in the city of New Orleans means that curfew's been lifted. It has been in effect from 8 p.m. to 6 a.m. every day since the start of the storm, but Mayor Latoya Cantrell dropped it this morning. She did note, however, that police will heavily patrol areas where the power is still out. Well, after days of heat and humidity, a change is coming.
And we've got our next tropical system. So let's get out to your local weather expert, Chris Franklin. Fill us in, Chris.
Yes, we do have now Tropical Storm Mindy in the Gulf of Mexico. Kind of interesting. But between the 3 and 4 o'clock hour, National Hurricane Center said that they found closed circulation on radar. And so they would be naming this TD13. Well, as kind of a surprise to us all, when the information actually came out right before the top of the hour, they went ahead and just named it Tropical Storm Mindy, as they were able to find winds of 40 miles an hour. It is quickly moving to the northeast at 21 miles an hour. We are not going to see anything from it. All of the rainfall associated with it, and notice the brighter cloud tops are primarily right near the center or just off to the east, and that is moving toward Panama City. It will already be inland by later tonight. So this is going to be a very short-lived storm, and notice quickly moving across South Georgia, northern Florida, and by tomorrow afternoon, the remnants of it, or at that point a depression, will already be east of Savannah, Georgia, and Jacksonville, Florida, and then quickly moving off the east coast before it likely diminishes or dissipates before even reaching Bermuda. So good news there. It is not going to be a threat at all to us, but some improving news as drier air will be moving in. To start, though, we've had some scattered showers, thunderstorms on the North Shore. Our rainfall has been fewer and far between today than we were yesterday, and even less rain on the way for tomorrow as that drier air moves in and a bit of a taste of fall weather. We'll talk more about that in just a few minutes.
All right, Chris, thank you very much. All eyes are on Entergy and the power company's promise to have 90% of customers restored in Metro New Orleans by tonight.
Entergy says it's going to get there, but there are some big sections of the metro area that are still waiting for power. And David Hammer's joining us now with the details on all of it. David?
Yeah, Katie and Karen, it's interesting how Entergy presented its update this morning. They emphasized that they would have 90% of metro areas restored by the end of the day, but did not talk about the lower numbers we're seeing in Jefferson Parish. Entergy did promise over the weekend that it would have 90% of Metro Jefferson Parish back online by today at the latest. This morning, Entergy leaders said they would have 90% back in metro areas, but they were counting Baton Rouge and New Orleans in that, where they are much further along. I followed up with Entergy later in the day and learned that only 61% of Jefferson Parish customers had power by mid-morning. I spoke with Dr. Craig Green, chairman of the Louisiana Public Service Commission that regulates Entergy outside of New Orleans and Baton Rouge, and he said the power company needs to do better with communicating to customers.
I mean, you and I couldn't do that job to get this many people back on within 8 to 10 days. It's a monumental task, but one of the things I would like for them to get better at is the communication with people so that they know and they can plan. And I think that's where people's the disappointments come with regards to expectations.
So that might be one of the toughest things for Entergy right now. They put out specific days for restoring specific neighborhoods in New Orleans and Jefferson Parish, and in some cases they missed the mark. But in other cases, they are outperforming expectations. Green said Entergy needs to find a way to give customers realistic expectations about their area. First, they had the outage map, and it was unreliable, and then they offered a new web page, and it hadn't been updated since noon yesterday. So again, it's mostly about managing expectations at this point, along with all the hard work going into restoring power.
All right, David, thank you very much. As for CLECO, it says that it hopes to restore power to all of their customers by the end of the week. Now, only about 10% of their customers in St. Tammany and Washington parishes are still without service. Also, a reminder, CLECO says Riverside Drive off Highway 190 in Covington will be closed every day from 8:30 in the morning until dark while crews repair the lines.
And restoration is progressing quickly for the Washington St. Tammany Electric Co-op. Nearly all of their outages have been restored. Right now, around 3,500 of their 51,000 customers are still without service. The majority of those outages are in St. Tammany.
All right, earlier we heard about the city's evacuation of 10 senior living complexes where residents were left on their own after the storm.
5 of those residents were found dead, and now today some returning residents found themselves confronting another problem. Investigative reporter Mike Perlstein got a first-hand account at those apartments today. Mike?
Yeah, Katie. Well, residents returning to the Flint Goodrich apartments in uptown New Orleans were being blocked from going inside to get some of their belongings. Instead, employees were going in and retrieving a few random items, adding to the residents' frustrations.
We told them what we wanted, but they still didn't get it. They bought me some things. I can't live around the house in a sweater.
Now, I can tell you that we did see that the power was on, there were working elevators, there were employees inside the complex, but that only added to the residents' frustrations. Katie and Karen?
All right, Mike, much more to come at 6. Thank you. Dozens of residents at a condo complex in Metairie are now scrambling to find someplace else to live after the building was deemed uninhabitable for at least a year. It's all because of that damage from Hurricane Ida to the roof. During the storm, it was partially ripped off. This building is mostly occupied by senior citizens. And while many of the units were not damaged, the building is unlivable for the foreseeable future. Many residents evacuated before the storm hit, and now they're coming back to gather their belongings, and they have to find other arrangements.
Wow, that is a hard time to find arrangements for that many people. In Houma, recovery from the storm is being measured in small increments. Terrebonne Parish remains under a boil water advisory.
But a spokesperson says there is a symbolic victory in the massive effort to restore power in the parish. Ton Trung is joining us live tonight from Houma with an update. Ton?
Well, Katie, there are bent and broken power poles throughout this region on virtually every street, so the bucket trucks and the linemen certainly have a lot of work to do ahead of them to restore power here. That said, a spokesperson for the parish today said one neighborhood in Houma does have power, but he was very quick to remind us that it'll likely be weeks before power can be widely available. As more people are returning from evacuation, we are seeing increasing piles of debris they push to the curb, but because the scope of the hurricane's impact was so wide, there are plenty of blown out businesses that are just sitting, exposed to the elements. Many homes have tarps on them, but damage has affected so much more than just the roof of properties. Some have been reduced to rubble. That's just the physical effects of the storm. The human element is another story. Today we saw a long line of people, including women and children, waiting to get a $100 emergency stipend. The Mexican Foreign Ministry sent teams to hurricane-affected areas to assist Mexican communities that need help. We spoke with one little girl waiting in line with her family.
We know that is a small support, but we are completely sure that it's going to help Mexican families with the basic for food, for something else.
What's it been like since the storm for you?
Well, we've been scared because we had to leave all our pets at home. And then our house was, the part that got burned from a fire that was next door fell off, and it's like, it's sided. So the porch is holding the house.
Now, Isabella Olin, 9-year-old Isabella Olin, who you just saw there, did say that her pets are okay, her dog was alive. Many Spanish-speaking workers came to Southeast Louisiana 16 years ago to help the rebuilding effort after Hurricane Katrina. Now it appears that some of them will have their own personal stories of recovery here. And keep in mind that there's a large need for supplies, and regardless of the language here, they're all in common. Because of the boil water advisory here, water and ice are going to be very much in demand, and because of the lack of power here, generators are in demand, and because of that, gas is also at a premium at this point. Reporting in Houma, Ton Trung, Eyewitness News.
All right, thank you very much, Ton. Of course, the United Way helping to distribute some of those much-needed items. Go to our website for more information on how you can donate. In the meantime, it is day 10 of cleanup after Hurricane Ida ripped through Louisiana, and there is still a lot to do as crews work tirelessly to get the lights back on and clear the fallen trees.
There are so many of them out there, but Allison Basil is live in Ponchatoula, where one woman has yet to start her cleanup. She's putting out an open call for the community to bring some help. Allison?
Yes, I'm at a home off of Highway 445 in Ponchatoula, and as neighbors clean up around this property, Sarah Hall, who lives inside the home, hasn't even made a dent in the mess. Now, while she was riding out the storm inside, you can see behind me over here to the left, there's a tree behind the house. We're going to show you it crashed right into the home, and Hall tells me that created a hole in the roof above her guest room, and that's just coming into view right now, obviously causing some water damage for her. And the hits, they don't stop there. Trees fell on top of the carport, the shed, and many more across the yard. This damage, it's a lot to handle for Hall because she's 62, so she's had help from her son and his friend, but they don't have a chainsaw to finish the job at this point. Now, Hall is waiting on help from Operation Blue Roof to patch the roof, but she's hoping there are people in the community that can lend a hand with clearing up all of these trees on her property. And I'll share more of the challenges with you that she faces coming up at 5. Live in Ponchatoula, Allison Basil, Eyewitness News.
All right, thank you so much, Allison. The needs are great. And of course, it is the 10th day since all of this began, and we want to get an update from the city of New Orleans.
As it relates to our city's recovery from Hurricane Ida. I am here with several of my leaders. Colin Arnold, who is the Director of Homeland Security. I have Mr. Ramsey Green, who is my Deputy CAO of Infrastructure, and Mr. Peter Bowen, who is my Deputy CAO as well, over the Office of Business and External Services. And so on today, you know, I have expressed this previously, but, you know, it bears repeating. Every single day. But I'm very proud of the strength and the love that our people have shown to one another as we began this recovery 10 days ago. And it's just been consistent every single day as we have demonstrated progress across the city. Also continuing to thank, you know, all of our first responders and city employees who have again been rolling up their sleeves, working around the clock to ensure that our city recovers and that we really are meeting the needs of our residents the best that we can. City Hall will officially open up on tomorrow morning, 7 a.m. And so city services will be fully restored as it relates to the public getting what they need from the city, our offices and the like. Today, we are continuing our path towards a full recovery and beginning to pivot operations as such. So yesterday, you know, we suspended the city-assisted voluntary transportation program, which was initiated, and as you all know, to temporarily move an upward of 800 residents from the convention center to state-run shelters throughout northern Louisiana, and of course outside of the impact zone. We are working with Entergy and our state partners, again, to identify and transport our residents back to the city of New Orleans. Colin will give you more information on this, but we are absolutely prepared and preparing ourselves for the return of our residents coming from these state-run shelters back to Orleans Parish, again, which will begin on tomorrow. Our team, along with the state fire marshal and state agencies where applicable, will be and have been thoroughly inspecting the 9 senior apartment and living facilities that we had to close as a city. The building evaluation and strike team, led by Peter Bowen, who you'll hear from, evaluated several. and cleared for them to reopen. He'll give you more information on that. You know, as you heard me say, I wanted to make certain that these facilities, these buildings, the apartments are in compliance prior to our people moving back in. And surely making sure that they are deemed habitable for our residents. We're asking anyone who is currently in a state shelter and who knows that their home is uninhabitable not to return at this time. But we're working directly with those individuals through the DCFS, the Department of Children and Family Services at the state level, that will be doing that direct outreach to our residents who are in these facilities as it relates to their homes possibly not having power or the like. We're getting this information, of course, directly from Entergy. That's being communicated effectively with the state-run shelters and DCFS, and that outreach, again, is happening from DCFS directly to our residents. But make no mistake about it, we're continuing to do the outreach and reaching our folks as well. We want to make sure that they're cared for, that the information checks out, and that we're consistent with the care that they are receiving in the meantime. And a lot of these are seniors that we did have to move out of harm's way relative to the existing conditions that we found them in. Our cooling sites, as you all know, were activated throughout the city, our NORD centers. We will be continuing the operations there through Friday of this week. So on Monday, those centers will pivot right back to serving the community as they did pre-Ida. But at the same time, we're going to make sure that they're embedded with FEMA representatives, again, to help our people as they move towards the deadlines that are in place, September the 12th for individual assistance and October 28th for property assistance. And so we're going to make sure, again, that we have the necessary resources on the ground to help our residents move through that process. We know that we have over 111,000 households from Orleans Parish specifically that have been registered by FEMA and for disaster assistance. I do know that FEMA has approved $59 million in disaster assistance to Orleans Parish residents specifically. And again, you know, this is our way of meeting our folks where they are. We continue to activate pods in the community, but we will be, again, moving back, diminishing operations on several of them, and Colin will provide you with those locations. We're using data to determine which ones we can bring offline, as well as those that need to stay activated, because we're still seeing the need there, and residents are showing up, and we want to make sure that we're providing them with those resources. In addition to that, we know that Entergy has reported about 83% of the city has been restored thus far, with the goal of 90% by this evening, by tonight. We have every reason to believe that they will meet this deadline and meet this goal, and we're going to continue to push that forward. Due to the scale up and the gradual restoration of power throughout the city, it gave me the comfort level that I needed, and of course our chief of police and our unified command that we've had on the ground throughout the city of New Orleans relative to public safety. I have the assurances that I need, and because of that, we move forward with releasing the curfew, which that began at 6 a.m. this morning. The proper filing I've signed and has been submitted to Civil District Court, and so that has been moved forward. So officially, we've done our due diligence, and the city of New Orleans is no longer under curfew. Again, that began 6 a.m. this morning. I understand, or I've heard from some of our residents a little bit, you know, wait a minute, don't relinquish that curfew. And I just want to reassure all of our folks that the coverage, the deployment, the unified command, all of that remains in place, and we will pivot those resources where they are needed most. So mainly if you have an area that has yet to receive power, of course, these resources and deployment, the strategy is to make sure that our residents have the coverage and the visibility that they need, which has been very much effective that we have seen on the ground. So please know that we will continue to be there, we'll continue to respond, be visible, and provide you with, again, the assurances that our residents need so that they will remain safe in our city. We will continue to have, again, the unified coverage throughout the city as we are and as we have come out of curfew. So it's not a let's just move, take all hands off deck. No, we're going to remain, that will remain in place, and our partnerships with the state police, the National Guard, of course, the Sheriff's Office, and could not be possible without our very own New Orleans Police Department. So that is moving ahead, and we will continue, again, to be visible and pivot as the needs arise. So I'm just happy about that. And also, we want to make sure that we are able to bounce back as best as we can, and that speaks to the balance that we have to make sure that we are deploying so that businesses can get back up and running, that they can plan even properly to have staffing in place and stand their businesses up in a very respectable manner, and that's what we need. And we're seeing it. So I'm very proud of the businesses that have stepped up. And I'm asking, for those who had to board up, it's time to remove those boards and get back to the way of doing business. Residents are ready for it. And we're seeing that on the ground. So I spoke with our hospitality community this afternoon as I keep those 1 p.m. calls going, as I have through Ida and throughout this pandemic, so that we're continuing to be aligned in moving the city in recovery from Ida. But let me tell you, I'm still very much focused on the recovery from the pandemic. The city continues to hold our own. We're holding that line, holding steady, even as it relates to this pandemic that we are in. As we scale down pods, one for example, will be at Municipal Auditorium. We're scaling that back in terms of Mahalia Jackson for pods, but because we're wanting to now resume testing as well as vaccination sites throughout the city, just again pivoting towards, not only recovery from Ida, but getting this city back up and prepared out of this pandemic and being the safest place to live and surely the safest place to visit. I have every what do you say? As I told the hospitality community this afternoon, I believe with everything that we have as a city that we will be able to, welcome our Saints back to the Dome at the October 3rd game. We know that they will be in Jacksonville on this Sunday. Some issues there with staffing at the Dome, but I'm very excited and for the city to be prepared to host our Saints again in their home at the Caesars Superdome. That's October the 3rd. The Sewage and Water Board, you'll hear more about this from Ramsey. Progress continues to be made on that front as it relates to our lift stations as well as dealing with sewer in our city. So we are stable, so that's a good place to be. And just continuing, again, to focus on our infrastructure. We continue to not need a boil water advisory. We haven't entered into one at all since Hurricane Ida and post-storm. And so we're continuing to look good and supply our adjacent parishes as needed with drinking water. But pleased to the progress even that I have been informed about happening in Jefferson Parish and surrounding parishes. You will also see the city of New Orleans, as I said this on yesterday in my briefing to all of our teams, that as we pivot and get out of and moving through recovery from Ida, that we will also pivot to helping our neighboring parishes as we need to in terms of being their brothers and sisters and being their keeper. So more of that will come in the weeks ahead because we understand that the other parishes were definitely impacted in a much greater way as it relates to Hurricane Ida. You're going to hear more from Peter in regards to our facilities that we have been assessing, and I mentioned in preparation for returning our residents back to their homes, but at the same time stepping up efforts to ensure that just continuity in oversight continues. You know, this is one of the reasons why I've worked very hard, even as a council member, to try to pass a rental registry in our city during those days, and even it being a priority as mayor, wanting to get that done through the New Orleans City Council. But this is, again, our way to have very much good information on our landowners in our city and know in any given time who the appropriate individuals are to contact for maintenance and the like. But this is, you know, one of those strategies that we deemed necessary previously, but absolutely I want to encourage the council to move forward with me on that. I also want to just remind folks, you know, as we have been able to see levels of progress in our city, you know, we still have to be reminded that it was a Category 4 that came our way and was over us for 12 hours. And so we held the line, we continue to hold the line, and I just want to encourage our residents and businesses to continue to push our city forward. I mentioned that City Hall will be opening back to the public on tomorrow morning, 7 a.m., and that I wanted to inform you also that there are several closures in terms of services that our public needs to be aware of that's not under the city's authority, meaning mine as mayor. The Orleans Parish Civil District Court, First City Court, Second City Court, and Criminal District Court have all extended their closure through Sunday, September the 19th. And so with the resume of normal operations expected Monday, September the 20th, the Orleans Parish Juvenile Court, along with the municipal and traffic courts, remain closed until further notice. I do need you to know that we've worked through the issue with the chief judge over at juvenile court to ensure that juveniles who are arrested, you know, definitely get their due diligence within that 72-hour framework to meet with an attorney and the like. So no injustices are being pushed forward with the closures that I've just spoke about. We do expect our schools to reopen between September the 15th and 22nd, and the school system will be notifying parents directly, and of course with the charter management organizations. I do appreciate the Orleans Parish School Board and the New Orleans Public Schools for structuring testing, COVID testing, in a manner in which that will happen prior to the opening of school. Because again, we want to stay on track being the safest city to live in, going in moving through this pandemic, and of course as we move through recovery. Before I turn it over, I did want to really thank Commissioner Donnellan. You know, I reached out, we've been talking for over the past week plus. You know, we've heard the issues or the impacts of insurance companies not wanting to approve alternative living expenses for some of their, what do you call it? Relocation expenses. No, when you have a insurance. Yeah, policyholders. Thank you so much. I slipped my mind on that one. Okay, so, but I wanted to really thank him because he did have an announcement earlier this afternoon just stating that he has instructed insurance companies again to honor existing claims, and we appreciate that. I do know that FEMA has also indicated if there is an individual, a property owner, that is having trouble and has received a denial letter from their insurance company, that they can submit that to FEMA, and FEMA is prepared to compensate accordingly. However, we definitely want to kind of nip that in the bud and just have the insurance companies respond to the needs of our people as demonstrated. Also, I just wanted to, and there'll be so many more thank yous coming out of this, I have to say, but I just have to, if you don't mind, I have to indulge you a minute on several. Of course, Culture Aid, NOLA, even with the grocery giveaway today, unbelievable. Had to get more of our traffic division out there to help with traffic, but I tell you, the residents responded greatly, which really speaks to the needs of our community. So I'm going to be really focusing heavily on that to see if we can continue to get services out there so our folks can refill those refrigerators in a timely manner. And I know that there are additional resources available, DSNAP and the like, but it's a need and it's an expense, you know. World Central Kitchen, Second Harvest, thank you so much. Operation Barbecue. Now, the Saints. I have to give a little shout out to some of my little nephews. You know, they call me Titi. And of course, Alvin Kamara was one of the first and you know, texted me, Titi, you know, what's going on? What can I do? And definitely doing it. Also, as it relates to Jameis Winston, oh my goodness. You know, he called me directly and he has just been deploying resources and supplies throughout the city. But I'm just saying the trailer that showed up at NOPD on yesterday was just phenomenal. And just speaking to the needs, you know, he said, listen, I want to help those who are helping others. And that means those first responders that are out there helping, but also they need the help as well. And so, Jameis, you know, you have been just a shining star. And he even told me, he said, you know, Mayor, I watched that video you did for Russell Wilson. And he said, and I watched that video and I was adamant about showing you that I'm worth it. And he sure is. So that video paid off in a big way by getting us Jameis Winston. So I had to give him that shout out. Also, Mercy Chefs, Salvation Army, United Way, the Greater New Orleans Foundation. I know that they have received resources that have gone to neighboring parishes and also to residents in Orleans. And so we'll be continuing to work with them. Over 200.
All right, Mayor Latoya Cantrell holding a press conference updating the latest on the Hurricane Ida recovery efforts, covering a wide range of topics, everything from power outages to Jameis Winston contributing, you know, a huge amount to the city and to the NOPD for first responders. So this press conference ran the gamut.
Yeah, and include a little bit of levity. Now we know her nickname among them is Titi. That was terrific. But also a lot of parents wondering, what about school? She said sometime between September 15th and 22nd, and that the schools will individually contact the parents.
Right. Lots also brought up about, you know, the fact that City Hall is going to reopen tomorrow. It seems like business operations are starting to get back a little bit more toward normal in the city of New Orleans. We know the needs are still great out there. People are still looking for food, she said. They're still welcoming all of those donations that have been pouring into the city. And there's still, like I said, a great need. So she's aware of that, and that's something that's still ever present. However, things are starting to get a little bit more back to normal.
Yeah, curfew is lifted.
Yep.
All right. Stay tuned to this special edition of the Eyewitness News at 4.
We'll have much more on the recovery efforts from Ida next.
Well, the United Way has been on the ground providing much needed help for those impacted by Hurricane Ida.
Yeah, Maria Aguilera is in Jefferson Parish, where people lined up for hours today to pick up food and cleaning supplies. The needs are great, and Maria is joining us live now with the latest on that distribution site. Maria?
Jefferson Parish residents sat in their cars for hours waiting to get a meal, water, and cleaning supplies. That United Way event was set to end at 1. It actually ended around 3 p.m. and still many people didn't get a chance to get anything. Now some of them are here where the National Guard is giving out MREs. They're also giving out water and ice, and you can certainly tell how big of a need there really is by just how long the lines are at these distribution sites. Now we were able to get some video earlier this morning before the event even started at the United Way pop-up, and there you could see lines were already forming, and it went back several blocks. Now some people say they never imagined they'd be in line for cleaning supplies, but that's just what they need as part of their recovery efforts after their homes suffered damage. Now they also had disaster application support for vulnerable families affected by Ida, and local restaurants are providing the meals this week. Now since only a few places are open to eat, the only grocery stores open are emptying fast. People really need those meals. Now, United Way of Southeast Louisiana's Chief Operating Officer and Executive Vice President Charmaine Cacciopi says businesses and people have been very giving.
It is overwhelming, and I have to tell you, it almost is too emotional for words. But people are so grateful, and I can tell you what's beautiful about our Southeast Louisiana region. I've never seen a more resilient, beautiful citizenry.
They are encouraging everyone to give because they say with more donations, they'll be able to host more pop-up events like that one across the region. And coming up at 6, we hear from some of the people that stopped by and what they say they are most grateful for. In Jefferson Parish, Maria Aguilera, back to you in the studio.
All right, thanks very much for that report. Many of us emptied and cleaned out our refrigerators during those power outages.
It wasn't fun. And today, Culture Aid NOLA hosted an event called Fill the Fridge to load those fridges back up. The group distributed over 70,000 pounds of fresh fruits and veggies. And Candace Charles is joining us live now from City Park with the latest on that giveaway. Candace?
Ladies, I have to tell you, the line is wrapped around City Park. You guys can see right over here, all the way down the street there, a line of cars. People are eating up this scene. It's really awesome to see. And they have folks as well getting in the bus here, taking a little bit of break because they have a little line right over here that you guys can come to. And guess what? That line is now empty. So if you want to get out of your car and come up to the walk-up line, you'll be able to get your food quickly. And here's the food, a little bit of onions, a big watermelon. You know, there's some meat in there, a little bit of everything you need to fill up that fridge. Now, folks were filling carts with the food that they need as Culture Aid NOLA teamed up with several organizations and City Park to make it happen. The food giveaway started at 2, but folks started lining up around noon. And before you know it, both the walk-up and car line was down the block as people waited to get fresh produce and food, a dire need after Hurricane Ida.
People are coming off of COVID. You know, you're having people who maybe weren't working as much as they could. And obviously, when we all lose power, everything in your refrigerator is going to go bad. So it shows you how many people are in need.
When we came out here today, we wanted to do something that was uplifting, that celebrated the spirit of New Orleans with good friends and good music and good food. And I think this is really beautiful here today.
Definitely so. Now, I don't know if you guys can hear that, but yep, you can listen to some music while you wait in line here at Tad Gormley Stadium. The line is still open for the walk-up. Now, as for the car line, that is closed. Unfortunately, it's wrapped around the park, as I mentioned. They'll be giving out food until they run out of it, folks. So definitely come down here if you can, and if you can't, you can stop by Culture Aid NOLA to find out when they'll be doing other bi-weekly giveaways. Definitely good to see all of these people down here getting what they need. For now, in Orleans Parish, I'm Candace Charles, Eyewitness News.
Yeah, and after all that hurricane comfort food, we need produce, fresh produce, right?
Yes.
Veggies matter.
Yes,
Stay
absolutely.
tuned to this special edition of the Eyewitness News at 4.
We're going to have much more on the recovery efforts after this. The Ida death toll in Louisiana has climbed substantially. Numbers just released by the Louisiana Department of Health put that death toll at 26. That's 11 additional deaths from their previous report.
And those additional deaths were confirmed by the Orleans Parish Coroner's Office and occurred between August 30th and September 6th. The 9 of the new deaths were related to extended power outages. A New Orleans woman was killed in North Carolina after evacuating before Ida. Gabrielle Allnut was a pottery artist and taught at the New Orleans Academy of Fine Arts.
Such a sad story. She was found dead on Sunday in North Carolina. She was NODA, I'm being told. It's an area that I did not know existed, but that's apparently where she was found dead. The Arts and Entertainment District in Charlotte is where that is. 29-year-old Malik Moore is wanted on kidnapping and murder charges in connection with Allnut's death.
And police also believe he was the one who killed a 21-year-old Tennessee resident in that same area on Friday. Moore has not been caught yet, and authorities believe he is armed and obviously extremely dangerous. All right, here's a look at power outages across the region. This map comes to us from the Louisiana Public Service Commission. They've been monitoring the outages since the storm, and right now just over 19% of customers, or about 400,000 Louisianians, are without power. But if you look at those areas hit hardest by the storm individually, the percentage without jumps into the 90s. We'll have much more on the power situation on the Eyewitness News at 5.
Louisiana's October elections have been rescheduled because of Ida. Instead of being held on October 9th, those primaries will now happen on November 13th, which means the runoff elections that are normally in November are now moved to December 11th. And we now have a better idea of when New Orleans public schools could open.
But depending on the building repairs and power restoration, the timeline is subject to change. Asha Staples explains.
According to New Orleans Public Schools, 22 of the 88 schools in the district sustained damage from Hurricane Ida. Luckily, 50% of the power has been restored to those schools, but the students returning to the classroom, it is a clearer timeline of when that'll happen. They gave the date of September 15th through September 22nd. And of course, this is all dependent on power restoration, teachers, staff, bus drivers, among other essentials. Statewide, an estimated 250,000 students are out of school because of the hurricane. Louisiana school superintendent says reopening schools is a priority, but of course a challenge at this time. In the midst of a pandemic and now hurricane recovery, education in Louisiana must consider the physical health of students, but also the physical condition of their schools. We did speak with Superintendent Dr. Henderson Lewis Jr. this morning about how they'll be able to make up some of the missed days from the pandemic and hurricane recovery. Here's what else he had to say about that.
I met with my school leaders. We've been meeting actually every day. And one thing that I shared in our meeting on yesterday is to be able to look at the number of days that we've been out of school and to be able to look at how they were addressed those days. And I'll be meeting with our schools in the coming days to be able to work through all those things there. But we know it has been a very, very challenging time in Mother Nature. There's nothing that we can do about that in this moment, except for to be resilient as a community and get our students back in school and really support our educators as they're continuing to do an amazing job to catch our students up since we've been in this pandemic. And so we're very thankful and appreciative of our educators.
Upon returning to school, school officials are urging students to get tested for COVID before returning to class next week. Meantime, schools in more heavily affected parishes like Jefferson, Lafourche, and Terrebonne have less clear timelines for when they will reopen. But of course, as we get that information, we'll bring it right to you. Reporting in New Orleans, Asha Staples, Eyewitness News.
All right, and as we know that many of you are heading back to the area or you're here right now and you're just looking for supplies.
Yeah, especially if you need to get medicine or some things to fix up your house. Well, a number of pharmacies are open and on both the North and South Shores. That includes a number of Walgreens and family-owned businesses. This list that you see on your screen, just a small snapshot of those that you can visit right now.
All right. There are also quite a few ATMs in operation, including those at Gulf Coast Bank, as well as ones located in a number of gas stations and hotels.
And as far as getting supplies for making repairs, most Lowe's and Home Depots across the area have reopened, as well as some Ace Hardware stores and other smaller hardware stores that you can see on your screen.
All right. We know this is a long list to take in, but you can find a much more detailed list on our website, WWLTV.com. Just look under the Open NOLA headline. Meanwhile, the Louisiana SPCA has picked up several stray animals since Ida hit, and in hopes of reuniting as many families as possible with their pets, they've started a dedication section on their website.
It's louisianaspca.org/strays. If your pet is missing, please check that site. And if you don't see that your pet is featured there, they're asking you to fill out a lost pet report. That way, if your animal's found, it'll be a lot easier to reunite them with you.
Oh, all right. Last night, the Claiborne bridge malfunctioned, sending one person to the hospital. New Orleans EMS tweeted this video. They say something went wrong and several vehicles dropped about 4 feet off the bridge. Fortunately, none of them landed in the water, but again, one person was taken to the hospital, but we are told that that person was not seriously hurt. The bridge was inspected and put back in service this morning. It was scheduled to be closed again from 2 to 4, though, this afternoon for maintenance. Stay tuned to this special edition of the Eyewitness News at 4.
We'll have much more right after a quick break.
All right. Well, in the wake of Ida, tens of thousands of people are in need of basic necessities.
Yeah, the United Way is one of the many local nonprofits that's helping people out with hot meals and supplies that they need. Kevin Landers explains.
The line is long here as people look to rebuild their lives after Hurricane Ida. This is the United Way drop-off center on Lapalco Boulevard, where people can come to get food, water, and legal advice, and it's all free. 750 meals are expected to be handed out today. The United Way of Southeast Louisiana Legal Services is also providing disaster application support. The United Way says 1 in 2 households in Southeast Louisiana struggled to make ends meet before COVID. Now with the hurricane, it says families are even more unstable, which is why they say an event like this is critical to get people back on their feet.
Some of us have homes to come back to, not livable right now. But then some of us don't have any homes to come back to at all.
All the food we had in the house, the meat, the freezer's gone. I mean, nothing, I got grandkids with me, so that's what makes it so hard.
The not-for-profit sector is absolutely the heart and soul of what's going to give people who are currently feeling a little hopeless all the hope they need.
This semi-truck brought 42,000 pounds of ice to help people who still do not have power and preserve the food that they still have left. This event today lasts until 1 o'clock, but other pop-up events are scheduled, and the United Way will schedule those at a later date. Reporting from Jefferson Parish, Kevin Landers, back to you.
All right, WWLTV is proudly partnering with the United Way of Southeast Louisiana to make sure people get the help they need. The nonprofit is looking for immediate donations for their North Shore and South Shore drop-off locations. They need water and sports drinks, baby formula and supplies like diapers and wipes, toiletries like soap, toothpaste, feminine products, or are most needed right now.
They're also looking for cleaning and rebuilding supplies like tarps, hand tools, scrub brushes, plastic bags, and work gloves. They are not accepting donations of food or clothing right now. And to find drop-off locations, go to unitedwaysela.org/Ida Relief.
As soon as the National Hurricane Center could find that low-level circulation on radar, they started to kind of ramp up their advisories. First, they started increasing the potential for something to develop before it moved inland. Then they announced they would be naming this TD13. And then when that announcement came out, they just jumped right ahead and declared it Tropical Storm Mindy. Again, it is racing to the northeast at 21 miles an hour. Within the next few hours, the center of circulation, you can clearly see on radar, will be inland south of Panama City Beach, kind of around the Mexico Beach down toward Apalachicola, as a far weaker storm than the last time we were talking about this part of the Florida coast. Most of the rainfall associated with it is kind of confined near the center, and other than more of a rain and not even much of a wind event, this is going to be moving through very, very quickly. In fact, by tomorrow afternoon, it is back down to a depression and already in the Atlantic and moving away from the east coast. What we are watching for, not this is moving away. It's a cold front that is on the march south, and drier air will be moving in starting tomorrow. Maybe not tomorrow morning, but certainly throughout the day, as that drier air with dew points in the 60s and 50s is right off our doorstep. We're already starting to see that dry air moving to north and central Mississippi and north and central Louisiana. So by wake up time tomorrow morning, may still have dew points in the lower 70s, but certainly throughout the course of the day, that good feel air starts moving in, and by early Friday morning, you will notice the difference with dew points in the 50s and 60s, and that air mass looks to hang around certainly through Saturday, and even by Sunday as the dew points slowly start to rise. It'll still be a relatively comfortable, all things considered for early September, air mass. But what about those morning lows? This is tomorrow morning. Again, not really feeling the impacts. We'll be in the 70s and then kind of jumping ahead. Friday morning, low 60s, probably 70s in the metro area, but even 60s away from the city. Saturday morning, same thing. Low 60s, low 70s. This is going to feel much, much nicer. Dew points right now in the low 70s, so a temperature of 86 makes it feel like 91. Nothing extreme. And actually, some of the cloud cover that we had today kept our high temperatures generally in the 80s. Had far fewer showers, had one cluster of thunderstorms around Pearlington. Those are just about gone now. But the cloudy skies, as I mentioned, did kind of help us out with our temperatures. It was still very humid, though. We're in the 80s outside right now, and factoring in dew points in the low and mid 70s, it still feels like the 90s. That is not going to be the case starting tomorrow with that drier air moving in. And not only less humid, but drier. No rain through the weekend. Maybe an isolated shower or two by Sunday, but a better chance of rain early next week. And as I mentioned, Mindy is moving away. So good news for us on the way. As that drier air settles in, that'll make it feel very pleasant, really through Sunday. And then scattered showers and thunderstorms will return beginning early next week.
All right, Chris, thank you very much. Well, we are seeing more and more restaurants giving away free meals across the area, and today it was McDonald's feeding the hungry.
They gave away thousands of free hot meals to New Orleans residents impacted by Ida. And if you weren't able to pick one up today, you can head out there from 10 in the morning until 2 in the afternoon. That is happening every day through Saturday. We want to thank you for joining us for our special coverage of the aftermath and ongoing recovery of Hurricane Ida.
Emphasis on recovery. Stay with us after the break for the Eyewitness News at 5.
Live from WWLTV, this is the Eyewitness News at 5.
Good evening, everyone, and thanks for watching. I'm Katie Moore.
And I'm Karen Swenson. Thank you for joining us for the Eyewitness News at 5. We're going to start with a few quick updates for you. Unfortunately, the Department of Health is now saying that Hurricane Ida has killed 26 people in Louisiana.
And that's a big jump from the last update that we got from them. The LDH says the Orleans Parish Coroner's Office reported 11 new storm-related deaths after reviewing its data since the day after landfall.
All right, in politics, Louisiana's fall elections will be rescheduled because of Ida. Secretary of State Kyle Ardoin announced that change this afternoon.
The October 9th elections are now going to be held on November 13th. That's when the New Orleans mayoral primary is, as well as those city council races, sheriff, and assessor. There's also going to be a special primary to pick a state representative for District 102 on the West Bank. The November 13th elections will be moved to December 11th. The curfew for the city of New Orleans has been lifted. It would have gone into effect at 8 tonight, but Mayor Latoya Cantrell says it ended at 6 this morning. She added police are still going to patrol those areas where the power is out heavily, though. Law enforcement officers in New Orleans have made 63 looting arrests and 174 arrests total since the day before the storm. That's from both the NOPD and the Orleans Parish Sheriff's Office. Sheriff Marlon Gusman put out a statement tonight. He called looting, quote, unconscionable and said it has not been widespread since the storm.
All right, students at St. Tammany Parish Public Schools will go back to class on Monday. The district says officials have checked out every building and they're all safe. All schools will follow normal schedules, and anyone whose child will not be able to come back on Monday is told to contact their school's principal. In Orleans Parish, public schools will reopen somewhere between September 15th and the 22nd. All schools will tell families when their specific campuses will reopen by this Friday. And those specific dates will depend on power restoration and the damage to individual buildings.
We had an update and kind of a rapidly developing update from the National Hurricane Center this afternoon with Tropical Storm Mindy being declared. Now, it is only going to be for a few hours before making landfall, as it will likely start weakening very, very quickly, as it really is just barely a tropical storm. Winds of 45 miles an hour. So it did actually increase from the last advisory at 4 p.m. And this is what we remember from Ida. We will get hourly updates now that it is within radar range. So we have a very clear picture of where the center of the storm is, which is very rapidly moving south of Panama City, around the Apalachicola area, maybe Mexico Beach. These are all areas we had talked about a few years ago with Hurricane Michael, but this is a far weaker storm. It is a rainmaker, and in fact, all of the rainfall associated with it is nowhere close to us. Some of the scattered showers we saw today were not associated with the storm. What we did see today, though, was the cloud cover from Mindy, and that actually helped to keep us a little milder. Most locations avoided getting into the 90s, so it wasn't an all bad thing for us. But again, with a named storm in the Gulf of Mexico, something to point out. But what's interesting is it is moving so quickly, northeast at 21 miles an hour. By the time we get into tomorrow afternoon, it'll be down to a depression and already off the East Coast, east of Savannah and Jacksonville, and moving away. Now, there was concern about any kind of tropical impacts to Jacksonville. Again, by Thursday, the storm is already moving away, and so by Sunday, there will not be any tropical threats, as that storm is going to be quickly moving and then eventually dissipate, probably before even reaching Bermuda. So some good news there. If we have to have all tropical systems like that, let it be weak and non-existent, or at least non-threatening. We've had some scattered showers around the area. As I mentioned as well, we didn't have nearly as much rainfall today, so kind of a pretty nice day in terms of all the outdoor work that still needs to be done. We didn't have the extreme heat or heat indices, and didn't see quite as many showers or thunderstorms around the area. A couple of showers around Amite, just to the east of, or excuse me, just to the west now of Independence, Tickfaw, and Hammond out in Livingston Parish. And then down on the South Shore, nothing around the metro area, but some showers down toward Lower Plaquemines and around Venice. Cloudy skies across most of the area all day today, as I said, kept us out of the 90s. Both sides of the lake, it was a little bit more of a struggle to see a very warm day. Just had some thunderstorms around Bay St. Louis, so they dropped to 75 degrees, but 80s elsewhere. Kenner today only warmed up to 87 degrees. We have dew points in the 70s, but this is going away as that drier air will be moving in, and it is not not too far off. Alexandria is already down to 58. Now, these are the dew points, not the temperatures. 65 is the dew point in Natchez. As this moves in, it'll feel a whole lot nicer. Now, by tomorrow morning, I know folks are antsy for that. It'll still have dew points likely in the low 70s, but steadily through the day, they will be falling. So the good feel air will be moving in throughout the day Thursday, and it'll be with us certainly Friday and Saturday, and kind of holding on a bit for Sunday. That will make it feel much, much nicer, and we need that kind of a weekend on the way. Plus, it's going to limit our rainfall to near zero. We'll talk more about that and check out the tropics in just a few minutes.
All right, Chris, thank you. Now to hard-hit Houma, where widespread power outages are likely to be in effect for weeks, and that is keeping a demand for gas for generators and cars at a premium.
Ton Trung is joining us live from Houma with an update on the recovery and the uncertainty some families are feeling. Ton, I know they're concerned they'll be forgotten.
Yeah, you hear that a lot down here, Katie, but the cleanup and the clearing here is widespread, but you will find places like this store right here that seemingly hasn't been touched since the storm. A lot of the original contents in the store are now still in there, and it's certainly noticeable when you smell it here. A spokesman for the parish says it's a safe assumption that virtually every structure in this Houma area and also in Terrebonne Parish got some level of damage. Now it's just a question of which ones can rebuild. It's a question many families are questioning themselves at this point and don't know how to answer.
I won't go through them power lines.
The front of Lesquan Longmire's house in West Houma was basically decapitated by Hurricane Ida. It's been in his family for generations.
We from the hood, so we used to dealing with certain things, you know what I'm saying? Now, Houma hasn't had this part of it, but, you know, just in life in general. Every day is a struggle. Every day we struggle.
Much of what was inside got damaged by rain. Some of the toys he bought for his 2-year-old daughter are now in debris piles out front.
When she came, she didn't want to step foot on the ground anywhere. She looked at the house and, you know what I'm saying, the look on her face, she was devastated.
On the eastern side of Houma, we met 9-year-old Isabella Olin. She and her family waited in the heat to get a $100 emergency stipend the Mexican government was making available to Mexican communities hit by Hurricane Ida. Isabella says when they returned from evacuation, they discovered their home had been looted.
People came in all over the houses and robbed. For example, they opened all my stuff from school, and all my mom's wallets were open.
Many Spanish-speaking workers came to Southeast Louisiana to help the rebuilding effort after Hurricane Katrina 16 years ago. Now, some of them will have their own story of recovery. Regardless of language, there are common needs down here.
We've been running out of stuff quickly, and then we got 2 generators, which are working good, so we've been okay so far.
Yeah, what sort of stuff were you running out of?
Like water, but then they've given us a bunch of stuff, so we've been giving it away too.
Full power in the parish is estimated to be weeks away, but there is an army of linemen and bucket trucks in Houma, and progress is being measured in small increments.
The power companies have completed their damage assessments, and now they're beginning to work on restoration. We actually had one of our neighborhoods come back up recently.
My child's room destroyed.
Back on the west side of Houma, Lesquan Longmire has salvaged what he can. Now he's making the same pledge so many in this region have made after the storm. He will be back.
We have to. We have to. Life gotta go on down here too. We gotta come back and do what we gotta do. It might be a blessing and a curse.
There's no question Longmire has lost a lot in the storm. There's one thing he did recover that was very close to his heart. His father died 3 years ago. The ashes of his father were stored in the living room of that house. He did manage to recover that. It was safe and it was dry. Reporting from Houma, Ton Trung, Eyewitness News.
Such powerful interviews. Thank you very much, Ton. Today was a major self-imposed deadline for Entergy to restore power to Southeast Louisiana after Ida.
Yeah, the utility had promised power back to 90% of the metro New Orleans area by today. And David Hammer found Entergy was on track to meet that goal, but it depends on how you count it.
Entergy officials felt very good about their progress Wednesday morning.
We are now 10 days into our restoration effort, and I'm pleased to say that we continue to make substantial progress and now have restored power to 600,000 of the 902,000 customers who lost power during the storm.
2/3 of Entergy customers had their power back across southeast Louisiana, and the numbers were even better in the city of New Orleans.
We've now restored 170,000 customers, or 83% of our 205,000 customers. And best news of all, we remain on track to have 90% of our customers restored by late evening today.
But the numbers didn't look as strong in Jefferson Parish, where only 61% of customers had their power back by mid-morning. So Entergy VP of Distribution John Hawkins blended the Jefferson Parish numbers with those from Baton Rouge and New Orleans, where they're much further along restoring power.
We will be 90% restored by today for all our metro areas.
Dr. Craig Green is chairman of the Public Service Commission that regulates Entergy Louisiana. He thinks the utility needs to work on managing customers' expectations while working to bring back the power.
I mean, you and I couldn't do that job to get this many people back on within 8 to 10 days. It's a monumental task, but one of the things I would like for them to get better at is the communication with people so that they know and they can plan. And I think that's where people's the disappointments come with regards to expectations.
Green was talking about Entergy's maps, texts, and website updates that misled many customers, but he tries to keep it all in perspective. He was elected to the PSC by the people of Terrebonne and Lafourche, where they're still weeks away from getting power back to a majority of customers.
Fouchon had 180-mile-an-hour winds. It was very broad, and it was sustained 4 to 6 hours. And then that just, as you know, swept up further and further.
Now is the time for restoring power. Later come the questions about how to make the system more resilient for the next storm. David Hammer, Eyewitness News.
Now, Entergy says it restored 75,000 customers yesterday alone.
That is incredible, and progress has been made in progress has been a little bit more modest so far today, with fewer than 15,000 customers restored since 10 a.m. Makes you wonder if they're now getting into the tough stuff.
Yeah. All right, a local Native American tribe is dealing with never-before-seen damage and destruction from Hurricane Ida. This storm has displaced members of the Pointe-au-Chien tribe in Lower Terrebonne, with many homes left unlivable. As Paul Dudley tells us, people are coming together to help, though.
It basically destroyed it.
When Hurricane Ida slammed into the Louisiana coast, the storm went right over the Pointe-au-Chien indigenous community, leaving behind unprecedented damage.
And then my window blew up in my bedroom.
Bryce Billiot has called this place home for more than 70 years. He says he's never witnessed this kind of destruction.
It hurt. I never seen nothing like that. And I mean, I was one of the lucky ones. You know, my house still all right. But when I see everything else what happened, I mean, it's bad.
Total devastation is almost an understatement. There is not a single structure that didn't take on at least some damage. And to make matters worse, there's no power or running water, and there likely won't be for quite some time.
It'll be a month before we get electricity. We don't even have no water. They got a few, 3 or 4 houses left. All the rest is destroyed.
Only 10% of the homes are still livable. The rest will have to be demolished, according to Charles Chucky Verdon Sr., chairman of the tribe.
They got roofs that flew off, and it's all wet on the inside. Some homes, you look at them from the front, they look like they're all right, but when you go on the backside, you go look in them, it's all wet.
While the damage is widespread, there are volunteers ready to help. On Tuesday, the nonprofit Glass Half Full organized a group of 75 people to deliver supplies and help people clean up.
And I think, like a lot of us in New Orleans, we feel like we were spared the majority of the wind damage. I mean, we lost power for a long time, but really the eye didn't hit us. And so we feel like we need to help our neighbors and help people down the bayou who were hit much worse than us.
We're just here for a few hours, and you can imagine the emotions and the
stress that's going on through the members of the people who live here.
Could fall some up right here.
Volunteers brought in water, food, and other necessities. They cut down trees and cleared debris. Members of the tribe we spoke to say they are thankful for the help.
It's a blessing there to see them want to come out and help, you know. I know there's only so much they could do, but anyway, just to see people come out and want to help, you know.
Like the people that come all over, you know, it would be for them. We would have nothing. We would have no water. We would have nothing to eat.
The cleanup here will take months, if not longer. Yet Bilyat says he's confident people will return.
I think plenty will, you know, because they like the community. It's almost all family this side, you know. I'm not going no place. I got to stay in Pointe-au-Chien.
You're going to stay, yeah?
Yeah.
This is your home?
That's my home for 74 years.
A community hit hard by Ida, determined to rebuild. Paul Dudley, Eyewitness News.
I would imagine there's so many of you that want to help. There is a GoFundMe account that has been set up to help raise money for that particular tribe. Just search Pointe-au-Chien, Ida Relief.
A New Orleans woman who evacuated before Ida to North Carolina was killed. Gabrielle Alnut was a pottery artist who taught at New Orleans Academy of Fine Arts, and she was found dead Sunday in Noda, the arts and entertainment district that is in Charlotte. 29-year-old Malik Moore is wanted on kidnapping and murder charges in connection with her death. Police also believe he was the one who killed a 21-year-old Tennessee resident in that same area on Friday. Moore has not been caught yet, and authorities believe he is armed and dangerous. A woman in Ponchatoula still has a tree on her home.
As she hasn't been able to find anyone to remove it. Hear her plea to the community for help next.
And later, life is starting to come back to the French Quarter, but tourists are still staying away. How long could it be before the Big Easy is back to normal?
All right, well, we have been following updates from every parish in our area.
And Jade Cunningham is here with the latest information that could affect you. Jade?
Yeah, well, good evening, guys. Let's start with an update from Entergy about St. James Parish. Their 81% of customers were still without power as of 10 a.m. today. Officials say Entergy's assessments are 100% complete and are now working to get power back up and running. 350 electrical workers were working today in the parish to get more people back on the grid. Still no ETA, though, on when power will fully be restored. Yesterday, Jefferson Parish officials announced the boil advisory for the East Bank was lifted. That's great news, but it comes with a warning. The power outages across the parish have put a lot of strain on powering the sewerage system, so residents are being urged to limit all non-essential sewer services. That includes washing clothes, doing the dishes, and showering. The superintendent of public schools in Terrebonne says many of the schools there saw significant damage and dangerous conditions still exist on some of the campuses. Schools are right now being dried out, which is just the beginning steps to a lengthy recovery process. Now, with that said, no start date for schools there is known at this time, and employees are asked not to visit any school or campus because of the hazards that may be present. And a reminder, those who bought equipment like a generator or chainsaw may be eligible to get reimbursed. It's for those who bought the equipment between August 26th and September 25th. You must first apply for FEMA assistance. That is mandatory. And you must meet the general eligibility requirements. You can get up to $800 for a generator and up to $250 for chainsaws. Now, this is just some information that we have found. We will have much more coming up tonight at 6, including what fast food chain is offering free hot meals and how ride-sharing services like Uber and Lyft are helping customers out.
All right, a lot of good information there. Thanks very much, Jade. It is day 10 of cleanup, but for an older woman in Ponchatoula, work on her home hasn't started yet. There are huge trees that cover her house and yard, and she's desperate to find anyone who can help lend her a hand. Reporter Allison Basil is live to give us a look at the damage. Good evening.
Good evening. Hey, we're here along Highway 445 in Ponchatoula, and you can see behind me rows of toppled down trees, and that's a common theme down the road and here at Sarah Hall's house. A tree smashed into her carport, but the back of the house caught the worst of it. She's hoping someone will come help her out.
First, it started with trees snapping.
While Hurricane Ida barreled through Ponchatoula,
Trees hitting the house over and over.
62-year-old Sarah Hall hunkered down inside her house, comforted by Kitty. Kitty's bark is worse than his bite, but his name shows Hall's wry sense of humor, a sense she needs to get through this disaster.
And then big trees started coming down, and it's like, Lord, please let this house stay on these stilts. And it did. It shook it a couple times, but it did.
The house still stands, but Hall's property now looks like a fallen forest.
This is my room.
A tree crashed onto the roof, creating a hole for rain. Hall used anything she could to catch the water.
Buckets and cans and pots and pans, anything that would hold water, you know, towels on the floor, you know, a lot of laundry to be done.
Trees cover her backyard. A big one fell on top of a shed. Another crashed into the carport.
It's a lot of work to be done, and I don't know how I'm going to get it done.
Hall says her son and a friend are doing what they can, but it's not a two-person job.
You need some chainsaws you need some beasts to take care of this mess.
Everyone along Highway 445 has a mess to tackle.
They're cleaning their own properties up. Right up the road on Bardwell Lane, a tree came through a lady's trailer.
Has no clue how she'll clear the property, but she's thankful to have Kitty and a place to call home.
I feel blessed to still be standing here.
And Hall tells me she did put a request into the Blue Roof program to fix that hole in her roof. She's asking anyone in the community that has some time and the right tools to help if they can. And I think it's worth a mention. We didn't know it, but she was inside cooking with her friend and her son, and they were cooking meals for people around the community. And we saw them just before talking with you guys go and take those around the community. So really great people, just really need help getting these trees out of the way. But for now, live in Ponchatoula, Allison Basil, Eyewitness News.
All right, thank you very much. I would imagine that somebody's going to see this and lend her a hand. Thank you.
Not that you want to hear it, but we do have another tropical storm in the Gulf of Mexico, but this one is not threatening us. In fact, it's not even really much of a threat to the folks in Florida, where we are clearly able to see now that center of circulation. And as soon as that became apparent on radar, Hurricane Center kind of started to step up their game in issuing more advisories and really focusing in on it. And you can really see where that center is and approaching Port St. Joe along the kind of Apalachicola part of Florida, south of Panama City. This is moving very, very quickly. Now, it is a tropical storm, but won't be for much longer. Winds, or it can be motion, northeast at 21 miles an hour. Now, the winds have sped up a little bit. They're up to 45 miles an hour as of the 5 o'clock advisory. We'll get hourly updates right up to the point of it making landfall and then quickly moving out of Georgia and then off the East Coast by tomorrow midday. So this is not going to be a long-lived storm by any means, and quickly moving away from the East Coast. We are not worried about it. We are on the back side of it. Really, if anything, we had a little bit of cloud cover from the system that helped us out with our temperatures. Here comes the cold front we've been talking about. This moves through early tomorrow morning, and with it, less humid air, but also drier weather. We are not going to see any rainfall until probably maybe an isolated shower Sunday, and a better chance late next or into next week. But as far as rainfall goes after today, slim to none, and that drier air is going to make it feel much more comfortable. But also, it won't be as dangerous because we're not going to have those high heat indices that we have seen over the last several days. So those still without air conditioning and those still doing a lot of cleanup work outside, the weather will be more cooperative, with dew points already starting to fall into the state, and they'll continue to drop really after early tomorrow morning. So starting out the day with dew points in the 70s, and then they will start falling into the 50s and 60s through the night and into early Friday morning. So Friday morning is when you'll really feel the difference, because dew points in the 50s and 60s will also allow our temperatures to start dropping into the 60s. And our mornings and even into the afternoons as we get into the mid-upper 80s will feel a whole lot nicer, because you just won't have that humidity to deal with. Notice the dry air sticks with us into Saturday. By Sunday morning, we'll start to see the dew points coming back into the upper 60s, lower 70s. Still not bad, but you'll definitely feel the difference by Sunday, and more of the Gulf muggies coming back as we head into next week. So what are our morning lows looking like? Tomorrow morning, again, not really noticeable. We'll be in the 70s. By Friday morning, 60s and low 70s. Saturday morning, low 60s. And again, for the metro area, probably going to stay in the 70s. But if you're away from the city, we will see temperatures into the 60s. And notice by Sunday morning, we'll start to see more of the 70s and upper 60s. And then those temperatures will continue to climb as we head into early next week. 86 degrees right now, our current temperature, and highs today stayed in the 80s because of the mostly cloudy skies. So we did benefit from kind of the circulation associated with now Mindy from some high clouds that moved overhead. And that kept us under mostly cloudy skies all day. Didn't see as much sunshine, and so it wasn't as hot of a day. Plus, we didn't have as much rainfall. Our rain coverage was far less. Few heavy downpours, and it actually looks like a little bit of thunderstorm activity moving south from Amite out toward Independence. If these hold together, approaching Hammond shortly. But our rainfall coverage has been much less than we have seen the last couple of days, mainly at around 30%. And you can see on our visible satellite the high clouds that are coming in from the south. That was kind of on the backside of Mindy. Then we have the low-level clouds coming in from the north. So actually the circulation, what was associated with Invest 91 as of earlier today, did help us out in keeping our temperatures not as hot. So we stayed in the 80s, where we just had some showers over in Bay St. Louis, 75 degrees. But dew points in the 70s will be coming down after tomorrow morning. So less humid. That starts through the day on Thursday, and drier through the weekend. Low humidity and no rainfall. Maybe a spotty shower as we get into Sunday, but the better rain chance will be on the way for early next week. And Mindy is moving away. It will be a short-lived storm. 10% chance for tomorrow, and that's mainly along the coastline. Could see some showers kind of fire up as the cold front is pushing south. Then sunny skies Friday, sunny skies on Saturday. You need to take that 10% out. No rain on Saturday. High temperatures into the 80s, which is a little below normal. As a matter of fact, today marks the first time our normal highs drop into the upper 80s. So we are on the downslope for our normal high temperatures. Doesn't mean we always stay there, but at least we're on the path of cooler weather coming. As we get into early next week, though, our rain chances start to return, about 50% chance as we get into Monday and through next week.
To be honest, 86 sounds kind of dreamy right
this
now.
This sounds delightful in early September, considering without AC and outdoors, that sounds perfect. That's pumpkin spice type temperatures.
It certainly is.
I will allow pumpkin spice on Saturday.
It is permitted. Let's get the Starbucks open.
Very much. Let's get those babies going.
All right, thank you.
Sure.
I'm under-caffeinated.
Very
Thanks,
much
Chris. The curfew in Jefferson Parish has been extended to Friday, September 10th. You can't be out from 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. Power's slowly coming back on in the parish, but many are still in the dark. And Parish President Cynthia Lee Shang joined our morning show this morning. She urged people to be careful if they are deciding to return to JP.
My concern is the post-storm tragedies that we've had. We have had more post-storm deaths than we have had during the storm. You're out there. The lights are not on all the time on the streets. Traffic signals aren't on. You know, when it rains, I was very concerned about, you know, you don't have the visibility in your car. We don't have traffic signals. People are stressed. I'm very concerned about the safety measures that are not present in the community until we put ourselves back together.
And a reminder, if you're in Jefferson Parish, there's now a free bus service to take people to essential places like grocery stores and shelters. And this on your screen right now is a list of the routes. The buses are going to run every day of the week from 8:30 in the morning to 4 in the afternoon. Again, no fares on these buses. They are free to get you the things you need. Jefferson Parish leaders are going to give an update on storm recovery tonight, and that update starts at 7 p.m. We'll be streaming it live on WWLTV.com and on our free app.
Now, if you remember, the mayor pitched for the Saints to sign Russell Wilson, but now she's a huge Jameis Winston fan. She explains why she changed her mind, and it took a few months, but the Saints got their starting cornerback. That's ahead in sports. It took a while, but the Saints finally addressed their most glaring weakness today. They traded with the Houston Texans to get cornerback Bradley Roby. Roby started his career in Denver and played the last 2 seasons in Houston. He's been a terrific player. He's another Ohio State defensive back for the Saints, another former first-round pick, and there's no word yet on what the Saints gave back to get Roby. Now, the Texans are in a fire sale right now. Roby is suspended by the NFL for the first game of the season, but it seems likely that he would step in and start in week 2 of the regular season. He's played 8 years in the NFL. He has been a solid starting cornerback, but that position is really a problem this week in week 1. Ken Crawley did not practice today. He's the only guy listed on the Saints injury report today. And talk about some positive mojo. Jameis Winston has been working behind the scenes with New Orleans first responders, giving food, generators, and roofing supplies to those first responders.
Jameis Winston, oh my goodness. You know, he called me directly and he has just been deploying resources and supplies throughout the city. But I'm just saying the trailer that showed up at NOPD on yesterday was just phenomenal. And he even told me, he said, you know, Mayor, I watched that video you did for Russell Wilson. And he said, and I watched that video and I was adamant about showing you that I'm worth it. And he sure is. So that video paid off in a big way.
If you remember when it looked like Russell Wilson might be a free agent or the Seahawks might trade him, she was pitching for the Saints to go get Russell Wilson. Now she's all on board with Jameis. Jameis will be the Saints starter, of course, Sunday against the Packers in Jacksonville. We have an Eye on the Black and Gold special tomorrow night at 6:30 to get you ready for it. Karen, Katie?
I think we're all on board with Jameis at this
No
point.
doubt.
No doubt. We're
That
in.
was just one of the more memorable quotes of the whole Ida
The
recovery.
whole
That's
Ida,
hilarious.
yeah.
This is awesome. All right, we'll be right back.
So we have told you about the city's evacuation of 10 senior living complexes where residents were just left on their own after the storm. 5 of those residents were found dead later, and today some returning residents found themselves confronting yet another problem. Our investigative reporter Mike Pearlstein found that the residents returning to the Flint Goodridge Apartments uptown were being blocked from going in to get their belongings. Instead, employees were going in and retrieving a few random items, adding to the residents' frustrations.
We told them what we wanted, but they still didn't get it. They bought me some things. I can't live around the house in a sweater.
Mike Pearlstein spoke with other residents too, and we'll have much more from him coming up on the Eyewitness News at 6.
Well, many of you wisely evacuated ahead of Ida with the thought that you would be reimbursed for your expenses. Now, Louisiana Insurance Commissioner Jim Donelon has issued an order requiring insurers to pay for evacuation expenses such as hotel stays. Several insurers voluntarily complied with Donelon's initial request, but some, including State Farm, did not. So he filed the directive. Still, insurers can challenge the order, and Donelon says evacuees will want to register with FEMA in the event insurers do not come through.
I am saying in my order, in directive, I have it right here, 218, that all of those actions, speeches, warnings, evacuation, mandatory or voluntary evacuations, are to be considered or to not be considered and to be waived as a requirement for additional living expenses or reimbursement of the cost of evacuation for what is in almost all policies the 14-day limited period of time.
Hopefully that gives some people some financial breathing room. A large condo complex in Metairie is going to be closed for a year because of Ida repairs. So residents of Metairie Towers are being told they have to leave. Comes from our partners at the Times-Picayune New Orleans Advocate tonight. They report the building's roof was destroyed during the storm, causing serious water damage all the way to the ground floor. There are 219 apartments at the complex, and most of the residents there are senior citizens. In an email after the storm, property management called the building uninhabitable and encouraged tenants to seek help from FEMA. And we will be right back right after this short break.
Well, if you live in Orleans Parish, remember there is no longer a curfew in place. We heard from city leaders just a short time ago, and Mayor Cantrell says she understands some residents are concerned it's too early to lift the curfew, with some areas still in the dark.
I understand, or I've heard from some of our residents a little bit, wait a minute, don't relinquish that curfew. And I just want to reassure all of our folks that the coverage, the deployment, the unified command, all of that remains in place, and we will pivot those resources where they are needed most. So mainly if you have an area that has yet to receive power, of course, these resources and deployment, the strategy is to make sure that our residents have the coverage and the visibility that they need, which has been very much effective that we have seen on the ground.
And Mayor Cantrell says the cooling centers that are set up around the city that were set up after Ida are now going to be taken down at the end of the day on Friday. We also found out that City Hall will reopen tomorrow.
With the power back in the French Quarter, some businesses are not hesitating to get their doors back open. And Heather Fontaine went exploring this afternoon to find those who say, come on in.
Well, there are certainly some restaurants and shops that were anxious to turn those lights back on for their customers, but the usual hustle and bustle of the French Quarter was just not to be seen. Even at staples like Café du Monde, for example, which opened up this week, you'd usually see a long line out the door. This afternoon, barely any seats were filled. Still, the owner says an open sign is a sign of normalcy, and that's what many in this city are craving.
It's still, as you can see today, it's very quiet here. But it's kind of like a chicken and an egg thing. Something's got to get started. So finding suppliers that can get stuff into the French Quarter. So it's just a wheel you got to get started turning.
He also says a lot of it has been about getting in touch with employees, making sure their situations at home are okay so that they can be here and serve their customers.
Heather, when you were out and about today, who were you seeing, tourists or locals?
Honestly, it wasn't a lot of tourists and it wasn't a lot of locals. It was a little bit in the mix. What we saw were people that were coming to the French Quarter that came here to New Orleans to help out with recovery efforts. In fact, I met one woman this afternoon who is helping out at the VA hospital, and I'll introduce you to her all tonight at 6 o'clock.
Sounds good. Thanks, Heather. We look forward to that.
Yes, there is a named storm in the Gulf of Mexico, but it's not going to be there for very long. As soon as the center of, what was Invest 91 came within radar range, really started to show signs of that closed low-level circulation. And that's when the Hurricane Center started to kind of jump on top of issuing first an increased chance of development, then decided that at 4 o'clock it would be TD13. Then when that advisory came out, it was already up to Tropical Storm Mindy. That is not going to last too much longer. You can see how quickly it is moving toward Port St. Joe. Winds associated, definitely supportive of a tropical storm. A buoy just to the south at 34 miles an hour, gusting up to 40, so not quite that far away from the center. Hurricane hunters were only able to find those strong winds right near the center. So this is a very weak storm. Now, the strength of it has increased slightly. We'll get another update at 6 p.m., but winds are at 45 miles an hour. Motion, though, northeast at 21, so it is racing toward the northeast, which is why by tonight it'll already be inland and weakening. And then by tomorrow afternoon, already off the east coast. So this is not going to be a long duration storm, really just a big rainmaker, maybe more of an organized rainmaker. We, though, are not looking at rain in our forecast, as our cold front will be pushing through and bringing with it drier air. This front is also, in the associated trough, going to be kicking Mindy away from us very, very quickly. And we finally get kind of an early and slight taste of fall weather. Don't get too excited, but the dew points will be noticeably lower, where it is going to feel far more comfortable for early September. Dew points in Alexandria, Natchez already falling into the 50s and 60s, and that is a more comfortable feel. Plus, it's actually safer because with dew points in the 70s, the heat index has been getting into the 90s and even low triple digits, and that is dangerous to be outdoors. Once these dew points are able to fall, your body through sweating is able to cool off more efficiently, so it's not as dangerous, at least in terms of heat illnesses, to be outdoors for any length of time, or the lack of air conditioning, unfortunately. But with the drier air moving in, it's not only going to feel better, but under our current circumstances, it will be a bit safer for the weekend, as dew points on Saturday will still be in the 50s and 60s, and then starting to come back up as we get towards Sunday. I'm not going to call it muggy on Sunday, but you'll certainly start to feel the differences, and our morning lows will be getting much cooler. This is Thursday morning, about the same as the last several mornings. By Friday morning, jumping ahead, we're into the 60s and 70s. 60s and 70s again by Saturday morning, and then going into Sunday and through next week, those morning lows and our afternoon highs will be coming up. Mostly cloudy skies outside, 86 degrees, and it feels though like 91. While not dangerous, it does become a little bit more of a strain on the body with the lack of air conditioning. We didn't have as many showers, so that was good for the Entergy crews trying to get everything up and repaired. Now we've had a few thunderstorms, one south of Meat moving through Independence, kind of along I-55 toward maybe, if it holds together, Hammond. Looks like maybe a little bit west of Hammond along I-12 at the moment. Elsewhere, the rain really has started to diminish, and rain coverage will be diminishing through the day. You can kind of see at the lower levels there are clouds kind of coming in from the north, and then in the upper levels, what really kept us under mostly cloudy skies, this wind from the south. This is all associated with that circulation with what is now Mindy, which is moving away from us. Temperatures in the 80s, and at least the clouds did help to keep our temperatures out of the 90s for most of us. We only hit 87 degrees for a high at Kenner, and dew points, while in the 70s now, are going to be coming down. So that drier air, may not really feel it by early tomorrow morning, but certainly through the day it'll be dropping and you'll feel the difference. And that drier weather, less humid and no rain, will continue through the weekend. Mindy formed, and it is moving away from us. So improving weather. I got a 10% chance for an isolated shower, mainly tomorrow along the coast. Could see some showers kind of get kicked off as the front starts pushing south and then moving offshore. Really dry though for most of us, and we will be dry Friday and Saturday. Sunny skies, highs only in the mid, maybe some upper 80s, so a more pleasant feel. Again, maybe not exactly fall-like weather, but for early September, it will be nice. And again, those morning lows will be getting into the 60s, which will be very pleasant. Starting to turn a little more humid, and with that southerly flow coming back, could see a spotty shower or two on Sunday, but an upper disturbance will likely start triggering better rain chances, especially by the early part of next week.
This weekend marks 20 years since the September 11th terrorist attacks, and Even now, tens of thousands of first responders and survivors and their families are still coping with the lasting impacts on their mental health.
Doctors say they continue to see new patients every week seeking help. Michael George sits down with a first responder dealing with physical and mental health issues who also hope others get the help they need.
Stephen Hess was working as an FDNY EMS tech on September 11th. He raced to Lower Manhattan with tens of thousands of first responders.
I was there the day of, but then I spent more time at the landfill in Staten Island. I had a cough almost right away.
The following years, he suffered several devastating health issues, breathing problems, advanced stage lupus, multiple back surgeries, and mental health problems.
It took me 5 years to come to therapy. It was working, but I had long periods of wishing I never woke up in the morning, and then I actually contemplated suicide because between the pain from the lupus, the breathing.
Most of them have post-traumatic stress disorder, but we also see individuals who have major depressive disorder, anxiety disorders.
New patients who have never been treated are still coming in every week, according to Dr. Sandra Lowe, medical director of the World Trade Center Mental Health Program at Mount Sinai. She says 9/11 anniversary reactions are also common.
We started to hear about people having an exacerbation of their symptoms, like more nightmares or feeling more on edge.
The middle of August, I started getting the anxiety and the stress. And even this morning, I was like contemplating canceling this. And then I thought, you know, if this can help one other person.
Hess credits his treatment at the Sinai program as well as his family for their tremendous support. He hopes others reach out for help if they need it. Michael George, CBS News, New York.
23,000 of more than 80,000 first responders are currently being seen at Mount Sinai's program for their physical and mental health.
They are our heroes. We will be right back after the break. Well, the Louisiana SPCA says it's picked up several stray animals since Hurricane Ida hit. Yeah, hoping to reunite as many families as possible. They've started a section with those animals' pictures on their website. It's louisianaspca.org/strays. And if your pet is missing, make sure you check that site first. If you don't see your pet, they're asking you to fill out a lost pet report. That way, if your animal is found, it'll be easier to reunite them with you. Yeah, we need those reunions. All right, that is our news at 5. Thank you for joining us.
We'll see you right back here at 6 and for the Eyewitness News at 10. Have a great night.
Live from WWLTV, this is the Eyewitness News at 6.
All right, welcome back to our coverage of the recovery of Ida. I'm Karen Swenson.
And I'm Sharice Gibson. Of course, we've been doing extensive coverage, so thank you so much for joining us. And tonight we want to start with some of the biggest updates today in the aftermath and the recovery of Hurricane Ida. Now, Louisiana's October elections, that is a big story here, have been pushed back from October 9th to November 13th. And the runoff elections they have originally that were set for November will now be moved to December 11th. And the curfew has been lifted in New Orleans with the power restored. More neighbors, with power restored to more neighborhoods. Mayor Latoya Cantrell dropped the curfew this morning. She did note that police will still patrol where the power is out.
All right, Entergy is pushing to restore power throughout southeast Louisiana, but progress has been a bit slower today, especially in Jefferson Parish. Entergy reported a little less than 82,000 outages in Jefferson Parish at 10 a.m. That number had gone up to 86,000 by 3:30 p.m. That means only 60% of customers in JP have power on the day. Entergy promised to reach 90% restored. Entergy officials are expected to join Jefferson Parish officials for that update at 7 p.m.
And Jefferson Parish Transit still offering some free bus services, but the hours are limited more than usual. Now, buses are running on 6 routes, some in Metairie and Kenner, Avondale, Apalgo, and near the Huey P. Long Bridge. Services are from 8:30 a.m. to 4 o'clock every day. For a full schedule of bus routes, go to our website, WWLTV.com. And crews shut down the Claiborne Bridge for another emergency inspection today.
All right, this after an incident with the drawbridge there last night that sent one person to the hospital after cars abruptly dropped 4 to 5 feet.
It has to be scary. Mike McDaniel joins us live from City Hall with what city leaders are saying about it today. Mike.
Yeah, well, short answer there, not much. According to New Orleans EMS, one person was taken to the hospital, 6 others refused treatment. That bridge, called a lift bridge, the middle section of it raises, so boats and other ships can kind of go up and down the industrial canal. Well, last night around 11 o'clock, there was some type of malfunction that caused at least one side of that section to lift about 4.5 feet. That then caused 2 cars to fall to the stationary part of the road. Of course, that's a 4.5-foot drop. The bridge, which falls under the care of the State Department of Transportation, was closed for a couple of hours this afternoon for maintenance. A spokesperson with the agency would only say what happened is under investigation, and workers are trying to figure out what caused it. We did ask city leaders a little earlier here in New Orleans about it, and we got the same response.
That is under DOTD. It is under active investigation. And so we'll be following up as we have throughout the day, but I don't have any more information to provide you with at this time.
And this isn't the first time there's been some type of malfunction on that bridge. You may remember back in 2008, a New Orleans police officer drove onto that bridge at night and then into the canal where he drowned because the lift was raised. Well, because of mechanical errors, there were no warning lights or barriers to stop him from driving onto it. Live from City Hall, Mike McDaniel, Eyewitness News.
Mike, thank you so much for that update. Residents in St. Charles Parish, including hard-hit Hanville, are still waking up to severe damage and no power.
Today, lawmakers and officials came together to survey the damage together to help get people back on their feet. Carmen Chow joining us from live from Hanville. Carmen?
Karen and Sharice, everywhere you look here in Hanville, people are coming together to help each other out, and that's just because the damage here on Keller Street is so evidently bad. You see trees down and this home over here sliced in half.
Katrina.
Joshua Smith was one of many standing in this line, waiting to talk to a FEMA representative to get financial assistance after his home was destroyed by Hurricane Ida.
It sounded like 2 jets coming through. Like, you know, like you was not even 2 inches away from a jet. It was scary. Like, the roof ripped off, the walls came down.
FEMA has teams in 16 parishes, and according to John Mills, close to $200 million in grant money has been approved for those affected. Mills expecting that number to go up. But that helping hand was also initiated by residents themselves who are dealing with losses. This U-Haul truck set up in an abandoned parking lot, passing out school supplies to children and water for families.
We love our parish. We love our children, love our families. We want to make sure that everybody has
a way to get food and water to get electricity back up.
We're resilient out here, so we want to try to give back, even though that we have lost ourselves. We want to try to give back. So anytime we can kind of funnel different things from different other areas coming into the city, whether it's water, food, supplies.
Lawmakers and parish officials touring the damage to get an idea of what resources they can collect to help residents make progress in their living situation.
We do not have electricity. We're in week 2. 95% of our community is without electricity.
Back out here live, a tough update to hear. Residents were just updated. They are not getting their power back at least until the 29th of this month. I'm live in Hahnville. Carmen Chow, Eyewitness News.
All right, Carmen, thank you. After the residents of 10 New Orleans senior living apartments were abandoned during the storm, only to be evacuated by the city amid life-threatening conditions days later. Some of those elderly residents were desperate on Wednesday to retrieve some of their belongings. Just earlier today, investigative reporter Mike Perlstein was at one complex today where frustrations were rising as those elderly residents confronted another problem. What'd you find out, Mike?
Well, that's right, Karen. Around lunchtime today, we saw several residents at the Flint Goodrich Apartments that's in New Orleans, uptown, being blocked from going inside to get their belongings. And we spoke to several of them. About 100 senior citizens were rescued from the Flint Goodrich Apartments in the dark and sweltering days after the storm, abandoned by the building's managers.
The manager was not here to advise us or to tell us what to do or where to go.
They don't deserve to be treated like an animal. That was like an animal. No one here, no one called.
81-year-old Annie Willis said many of her neighbors were suffering when city health officials evacuated the building. 5 residents were found dead across the city as officials cleared out a total of 10 senior living complexes.
Oh, it was terrible. It was really warm and dark because we didn't have no generator at all, which the manager had been telling us that we have a generator.
Willis and her neighbors faced a new set of problems Wednesday as some of them returned to retrieve clothes and other supplies.
They wouldn't let us in the apartment.
Instead, employees went without the renters to retrieve a few items, adding to the frustration.
We told them what we wanted, but they still didn't get it. They brought me some things. I can't live around the house in a sweater.
We tried to ask employees inside about the situation.
Mike Goodrich.
Yes, hello. This is Mike Perlstein with Channel 4 News. I was wondering if I could speak to one of the managers.
No one's here. You have to speak with the corporate office.
The complex is operated by HRI Management, but they didn't respond to our request either. Now, we did notice that the building had power and working elevators today, so that only added to the confusion and frustration from residents about why they weren't allowed inside.
And Mike, we know that I know that particular apartment complex isn't owned by the Archdiocese, but other ones in question are. Have we heard from the Archdiocese and any other owners of these 10 living centers in question?
Well, I can tell you, we tried HRI, the owner of that complex. The Archdiocese likewise owned several that were evacuated, and there really has been no response. I know that it's a fluid situation. We did find out on the ground, residents were hearing that the apartment managers were trying to get the whole complex reopened by the middle of next week. Now, I can tell you that for some who need medications and maybe some clothing inside their apartments, that wait of a week really sounded too long, and they are looking to get a better answer.
All right, well, great work. I know you'll continue to follow the story.
Indeed.
Thanks, Mike.
Well, when Hurricane Ida slammed into the Louisiana coast, the storm went right over the Pointe-au-Chien indigenous community, leaving behind unprecedented damage. Only 10% of the homes are still livable, and the rest will have to be demolished, according to the chairman of the tribe. Another tribe member, Bryce Billiard, has called the area home for more than 70 years. He says he has never witnessed this kind of destruction.
It hurt. I never seen nothing like that, and I mean, I was one of the lucky ones. You know, my house still all right, but when I see everything else what happened, I mean, it's bad.
While the damage is widespread, there are volunteers ready to help. On Tuesday, the group Glass Half Full organized a group of 75 people to deliver supplies and help people clean up. There's also a GoFundMe account. Just search Pointe-au-Chien Ida Relief.
All right, across 7 parishes, the United Way of Southeast Louisiana is doing pop-up distribution sites this week.
Yeah, Maria Aguilera is in Jefferson Parish, where people lined up for hours to pick up food and cleaning supplies. She joins us live now. Maria.
Yeah, you can certainly tell how great of a need there is by how long the lines have been at distribution sites like this one that actually ended just a few minutes ago here in Jefferson Parish. And the same goes for the pop-ups that United Way hosted earlier. The people we spoke with there waited in their cars for hours, but they say they are grateful to be receiving any help. Jefferson Parish residents lined up for hours in their cars just to get a meal, water, and cleaning supplies.
We wish it would have been here sooner, but we know they got here as soon as they could, and they're doing the best they can, and so are we.
With a lot of stores being closed and power out for days, people were thankful to finally get their hands on some ice.
We don't have a lot of places to get ice.
Others in line hoping for anything they can get.
We do have power, we just don't have any food.
Sherelle Casimir says this isn't how she pictured spending her son Deshaun's 5th birthday.
Heartbroken.
Her plan today?
Sing happy birthday as loud as we could. It's just us. It's only us. So.
The need is overwhelming, but the support has been greater.
It is overwhelming, and I have to tell you, it almost is too emotional for words. But people are so grateful, and I can tell you what's beautiful about our Southeast Louisiana region. I've never seen a more resilient, beautiful citizenry.
United Way of Southeast Louisiana's Chief Operating Officer and Executive Vice President Charmaine Cacciopi says it feels amazing to give in a time of crisis and that she's proud of her community.
These people are suffering, and you know what? They're happy, they're grateful, they're kind. That's why representing this area is a blessing to me.
Girl, we aim to please. We live united.
Coming to get cleaning supplies to try and help clean up my house.
Brittany Arabi never imagined she'd be in line for 2 hours to pick up cleaning supplies. However, she says she's grateful that organizations like United Way are hosting events like this to provide supplies that have now become essential in the wake of Ida.
I can't thank the people out here enough for being able to help us and to help all the families out here. Even though it may seem like a little bit, it really means a lot to when you lose as much as we all have.
Tomorrow, United Way will host pop-ups in St. Bernard, Plaquemines, and Tangipahoa Parish. Then on Friday, they'll be in Washington and Orleans. Back to you in the studio.
Thank you so much. Well, many businesses are trying to reopen as their power comes back on.
We're seeing a lot of that in the French Quarter, which was one of the first places to get their power restored. We're going to have an update on who's getting back to business coming up.
Another popular activity once you get your power back, cleaning out your fridge and then trying to replace the food you had to toss out. See an event earlier today where people were able to stock up on things like fresh produce.
Well, these stories and much more, plus your local weather experts forecast when this extended edition of the Eyewitness News at 6 continues. Stay with us. we know power has returned to the French Quarter, but have the people?
Well, some restaurants are anxious to open their doors, but with few tourists, Heather Fontaine shows us just how quiet the quarter can be.
Normally at Café du Monde, you'd see not one, not two, but 3 different lines out the door. Today, it's a different story. You can go right up to the counter and place your order. Now, you may not be able to see the usual hustle and bustle of the French Quarter, but some here say they're at least starting to feel it come back to life.
This little light of mine, and I'm gonna let it shine, let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. Thank you, Lord.
Robert Green doesn't need a crowd.
I start singing anyway.
But he's always used to an audience here at Café du Monde.
It's been kind of slow.
The beignet shop opened for business this week for the first time since Hurricane Ida's winds ripped through the French Quarter, leaving it without power for days.
It's a sense of normalcy because you're getting back to doing what you do.
Café du Monde President Jay Roman recognizes the empty seats. You'll see a lot of them walking around the quarter.
It brings a tear to my eye, to say the least, because I've never seen it like this.
The few tables filled are by people like Christy Harmon. She's here from out of town to help out at the Veterans Hospital.
No one stops trying here.
Including the businesses who were quick to put up their open signs, a sign of perseverance.
It's been lovely. I'm not saying it's not difficult. It gives you a lot of hope for the future.
The city's Office of Business and External Services is now asking residents and business owners to remove any plywood or other window coverings installed for the hurricane from their homes and buildings.
The heart's still here.
And with each day,
it always comes back. It will come back again.
A little more light
Let it shine,
to bring us out of the dark.
let it shine.
Heather Fontaine,
Amen.
Eyewitness News.
Our smartphone app is a great way to keep track of the latest Ida recovery news as well as the weather on the go.
Well, you can also watch our live newscasts as well as press conferences like the one coming up tonight at 7 at Jefferson Parish. Just search your phone's app store to download it for free. We'll be right back with more coverage of the recovery from Hurricane Ida. Stay with us.
All right, let's take a closer look at Tropical Storm Mindy. It's not a threat to us. I know, start to get a little bit anxious when we talk about a tropical storm in the Gulf of Mexico. Thankfully, this is pretty much locked in stone, written in stone as the forecast, because it is so quickly moving up toward the Port St. Joe area south of Panama City along the beaches there, that it is going to be making landfall actually probably shortly. You can see clearly on radar that center of circulation, although what's been interesting is there really is no rainfall on the western side of it. And we're only finding the strongest winds right within that center of the storm. We're not going to call that an eye wall. There really is no eye structure. And notice a buoy just to the south of the center of Mindy. Winds are only maxing out at near 30 miles an hour, gusting up to 36. So those maximum sustained winds right now of 45 miles an hour are right at the center. And again, that center is shortly going to be moving on land. So this is going to be one of the quickest named storms this season, as it will probably only keep its name for a little while longer. Once the center is on land and moving northward very quickly, it'll be weakening to a depression. And then by the time it exits the coast of either Georgia or Florida, by tomorrow midday, it'll already be weakening and pushing away from the East Coast. So a very short-lived storm. Mindy is out there nonetheless. We are not worrying about it, as it is moving to the northeast thanks to an upper trough, which is kind of picking the storm up and pulling it away from us, but also forcing a cold front on through. That's what I'm watching, the cold front that'll move through early tomorrow morning, bringing with it less humid air and putting a cap on our rain chances, and we need both of those desperately. Dew points are in the 60s and not too far away. That's the air mass that is moving our way. So tomorrow morning wake-up time, may not really feel it just yet. Dew points will still be in the lower 70s, but certainly throughout the course of the day, as that drier air moves in, you will feel the difference. And by wake-up time on Friday, really Thursday night going into Friday morning, very pleasant to be outdoors. I'm going to just sit outside, drink a cup of coffee in the morning. On Friday, it will be very pleasant. Dew points in the 50s and 60s this time of year, really any time of the year, is very nice for southeast Louisiana. And dew points again will be low by Saturday morning. Now during the day, Saturday, more so into Sunday, we will begin to see those dew points on the rise. Winds will be coming back off of the Gulf, and so the humidity will begin to return. Short-lived, I know, but welcome. And check out the morning lows. This will be similar for Saturday morning. We're looking at 60s on both sides of the lake, with the exception of the metro area probably staying in the lower 70s, but very pleasant air mass, and that's going to keep us, at least going into the weekend, feeling a bit more comfortable. And again, for early September, this is our taste of fall. 86 degrees right now with a dew point of 72 under mostly cloudy skies, winds light out of the southwest at 5 miles an hour. Our high today, 87 degrees, and that was thanks to overcast skies almost all day. We didn't pick up any rainfall at Kenner and only a few spotty showers. Average high 89, so we're finally seeing those average highs get out of the 90s, and they will continue to drop as we go through the rest of the month and into further into fall, which again doesn't officially start for another several days, but for us, we know it really doesn't get going until more late October. It's a couple of scattered showers, thunderstorms up on the North Shore. A few isolated have been a bit heavier, although nothing that has prompted any kind of flooding issues. But approaching Folsom, although it looks like it's weakening, and just around Angie, approaching Bogalusa as well. A few of those showers and thunderstorms may continue for another couple of hours, but ending through the night. And that 10% chance of rain tomorrow, mainly along the coast as the front is initially pushing on through. Most of us will stay dry. And then dry for Friday, Saturday, sunny skies, very nice. Morning lows 60s, low 70s. By Sunday, maybe an isolated shower starting to turn a little more humid, and then scattered showers return into early next week.
Thank you. Terrebonne Parish officials say just about every home or business there got some kind of damage.
We have an update from Houma coming up, but as we head to break, here's a look at some more ways you can help these survivors of Hurricane Ida.
From WWLTV, this is continuing. From WWLTV, this is continuing coverage of the Hurricane Ida aftermath.
Sadly today, the Ida death toll in Louisiana climbed substantially. Numbers released hours ago by the Louisiana Department of Health put the death toll at 26. That's an additional 11 deaths from the previous report.
Well, those additional deaths were confirmed by the Orleans Coroner's Office and occurred between August 30th and September 6th. 9 of the new deaths were related to extended power outages.
All right. Progress to restore power has been slower today, especially in Jefferson Parish. Entergy reported a little fewer than 82,000 outages in Jefferson Parish at 10 a.m. That number had gone up to 86,000 by 3:30 p.m. and that means only about 60% of customers in Jefferson have power on the day that Entergy promised to reach 90% restored. Entergy officials are expected to join the Jefferson Parish press conference. That update will happen a half hour from now at 7 o'clock, and we will have that for you live on our website.
Well, in Houma, power companies have finished the process of assessing damage.
And soon they'll be restoring power to more of the places that can receive it. Tan Trung updates the recovery from Terrebonne Parish.
While blue tarps and debris piles are indicators that the recovery in Houma is well underway, this grocery store still has much of its original contents inside, untouched. It's a reminder of the scope of the storm damage in Houma. There are bent and broken power lines on virtually every street in Houma, so the linemen and bucket trucks have a tremendous amount of work to do to restore power. But a parish spokesman told us today one neighborhood in Houma does have power back. That said, he was quick to remind it'll likely be weeks before power will be widely available. In West Houma, the front of Lesquan Longmire's house was basically decapitated by Hurricane Ida. It's been in his family for generations. He's managed to salvage what he can. Now comes the question of if or how he can rebuild.
My porch, it was all fell down. The inside of the house collapsed. So that's my kitchen and another room. It's a 5-bedroom house upstairs. So kitchen, cabinets, everything is gone from the roof down. All I thought about was the memories I had in the house. My house will never look the same. It'll never be the same. My whole block will never be the same. My whole neighborhood will never be the same, you know.
Among all the things Longmire lost, he did manage to salvage one very important thing close to his heart: his father's ashes. They were stored in the family's living room. Those ashes were untouched. In Houma, Tan Trung, Eyewitness News.
Well, many of us emptied and cleaned out our refrigerators during the power outages.
And now to help people refill them, one group says they'll have 70,000 pounds of fresh fruit and vegetables to give out at City Park. And that's where we found Candace Charles. Candace, is that line still long, wrapping around the park?
Hey, the music is still going and the cars are still rolling in. A sure sign of the dire need of food after Hurricane Ida forced grocery stores to close. And this, guys, is only the drive-up line.
We're hungry.
Armando Barlout drove from Metairie to wait in this long line for an essential item that's dried up since Hurricane Ida: food.
I was looking for food like at 5 to fill up the fridge. My wife saw the, fill up your fridge opportunity and to come out here, and I said, we're going.
With lights starting to come on in homes throughout the state, it's time to restock fridges emptied out during the outage. On Wednesday, Culture Aid NOLA helped.
Our city shows up for each other.
With the help of more than 250 volunteers and 3 local organizations, Erica Chomsky-Allison got Fill the Fridge off the ground.
I called City Park and they didn't ask a question. They just said, we are in.
When City Councilman Joe Giarrusso saw the line down the block, he was reminded of the need.
The best part of this job, honestly, is being able to help people. And particularly when you see that people aren't getting what they need.
Organizers put together the event in less than 36 hours.
What we've found over the past couple of days is there are a lot of reasons why no one produces a festival-sized event in 36 hours using a cell phone with a solar battery charger. But we did it.
Filling a basic need with donated food, all while providing the hospitality you could only get in NOLA, especially after a natural disaster.
As a community, we really do care about each other, and no one can help New Orleans like New Orleans.
This is the greatest city in the planet, and I love it here.
Yeah, and with the amount of people that were in line today, the drive-up line has already closed. On the menu, folks, watermelon, onions, meat, fish, so many things that you can get to fill up your fridge. But there is some good news. The walk-up line is still open, and they still have bags of food on that side. So if you want to go on that side, Tad Gourmet Stadium, you can check out that side. If you missed this event, Cultural Aid NOLA does have a lot of events like this. You can go to their website to check out how you can get some assistance. For now in City Park, I'm Candace Charles, Eyewitness News.
Right, so many people in need of those whole foods. Thank you very much. We've been following updates from every parish in our area.
Now, Jade Cunningham is here with the latest information that could affect you.
Well, good evening, Sharice, and good evening, Karen. There are so many updates that have been coming from parish leaders today. We want to give you a quick update on some you may find helpful. Parents may be wondering about when school will resume for their children or child, and they could go back to school. And we've learned in St. James Parish, public schools will be closed through Friday, September 17th. Many of their school buildings saw substantial damage, and they say until power is restored, a more definitive start time is not yet known. St. Tammany Parish officials, though, have announced their public schools and offices will open Monday, September 13th. All schools and facilities will follow normal schedules, but for anyone who can't make it back, they are asked to contact their school principal or supervisor so a backup plan can be determined. In Jefferson Parish, there's help for those in need of a ride to get essentials. Uber and Lyft are now offering 2 free rides to anyone who needs to get food, water, ice, or shelter bus pickup. For Uber riders, you can use the code Ida Relief 2021. For Lyft drivers, you can use the code Ida Relief 21. And are you loving it? Mayor Latoya Cantrell announced McDonald's and local owners and operators are teaming up to give thousands of free hot meals to New Orleans residents. You can stop at a location from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. from September 8th through 11th. To get one. Again, those meals are free. And these are just a few things we found that may be useful for those in particular areas. For the latest parish-by-parish information, you can go to WWLTV.com.
Lots of great information. Thanks, Jay. WWLTV has partnered with the United Way of Southeast Louisiana and the Saints to help raise funds and collect supplies for our neighbors in need.
Earlier today, I sat down with linebacker Demario Davis to discuss how every donation and dollar will impact our community. All of those funds and everything that's gathered here and the donations and supplies will stay here locally within our community, right?
That was the biggest thing about why working with United Way Southeast Louisiana was most important, because 100% of the dollars are going to remain local. And so even though they have a national reach and they're able to draw in resources from all over, because we do need the resources coming from other places and other people to help here locally, all the dollars that come in will be spent locally.
Oh, we'll have more of that interview coming up on the Eyewitness News at 10. But in the meantime, take a look at what supplies are needed now. Water and sports drinks, baby formula and supplies, toiletries like soap and toothpaste, pads and tampons. In addition, they're looking for cleaning and rebuilding supplies like tarps, hand tools, scrub brushes, plastic bags, and work gloves.
They are not, though, accepting donations of food or clothing at this time. To find the exact drop-off locations or for a more detailed list of donatable items, you can scan the QR code on your screen now or just go to www.unitedwaysela.org/Ida Relief. We'll be right back.
we have been talking about since last Wednesday. So we've been talking about it for a week. Invest 91 when it was still down in the Western Caribbean. Well, finally, at 4 o'clock, Invest 91 kind of ramped up to Tropical Storm Mindy. Thankfully, the impacts are minimal for the folks that will be directly impacted by the storm, and for us, absolutely nothing. Finally started to take on a little bit more of that closed circulation and a little bit more of a tropical structure today. And then within a few hours now of making landfall, it started to finally have that closed off low level circulation. Although you'll notice on radar, and this is a radar out of Eglin Air Force Base, it is not completely rain wrapped, so there is no rainfall really on the the eastern end or the eastern side of the center. There is on the western side, but that kind of evaporates as it moves over to the east. So this is not a very well-defined or well-structured storm by any means. And notice, as you kind of follow along with that, it is just about on the kind of northeastern side of the center, about to make landfall if it has not done so already. So a very short-lived storm before landfall, and the good news is impacts, as I said, are minimal. Now it is moving away from one of the buoys, but buoys or the winds, at least at that buoy, had never registered even tropical storm force winds. So the winds, if they are in fact that tropical storm, are right near the center, and that is in a very small location, because as you get away from that center, the winds dramatically taper off. So this is not a powerful storm by any means, and one in which the coast can more than handle. 45-mile-an-hour winds as of the 7 o'clock advisory. Forward motion still very quick to the northeast at 21 miles an hour. And as far as the structure of it now is, it's all but falling apart. Again, it started to gain a little bit of strength, but now with it moving on land, and that will continue through the next couple of hours, it is no longer going to strengthen. Weakening will occur overnight tonight, and by midday tomorrow, whatever is left of that circulation will already be off the east coast and moving further into the Atlantic. So we are not worrying about Mindy. We are watching this cold front that'll be pushing on through, bringing with it some drier air. Dew points are going to be coming down, and they've already started to fall just to our north and west. Dew points are falling into the 60s. Now, by wake-up time tomorrow morning, based on our computer model, still in the low 70s, so not quite feeling that fall feel just yet. But as we go through the day Thursday, and certainly by Thursday night and Friday morning, it will be noticeably less humid. Dew points are going to be falling into the 50s and 60s, and that air looks to hang around certainly through Saturday. By later on Saturday and certainly into Sunday, the winds come back out of the south. So the dew points, the humidity will be slowly on the rise. But look at our morning lows Friday, 60s and low 70s. So it is going to feel, again, for early September, maybe a little taste of fall. 86 degrees right now with a dew point of 72. Again, dew points may be similar tomorrow morning, but then quickly dropping through the day. Today's high, thanks to mostly cloudy skies, only at 87 degrees. Still have some scattered showers around the area. Up on the North Shore, we've had a few thunderstorms, nothing strong, nothing severe, rolling through Angie down toward Bogalusa, a few around the Franklinton area. Looks like as the rain started to move into Folsom, started to weaken, and a couple of thunderstorms in the river parishes around Lutcher, but nothing strong. However, unfortunate for the folks that may have just only had roof damage in these areas. You've now got rainfall moving over. Kind of some of the outflow associated with Mindy sent a lot of the high cloudiness over us today, and that overcast sky really helped us out with our temperatures, as we did not get into the 90s today. Stayed in the 80s, and then even into the 70s, where you've got a few showers nearby at Hammond. 79 with dew points in the 70s. But again, those numbers will be coming down as drier air moves in through the day tomorrow, and we're going to stay drier in terms of the humidity and rainfall through the weekend. And Mindy moving away just as fast as it formed. It is moving on. 89 degrees our high tomorrow. We'll start to see more sunshine and that drier air pushing in, and beautiful weather for Friday and Saturday. The mornings in the 60s and low 70s. By Sunday, starting to turn a little more humid, maybe an isolated shower, only because we'll have that wind coming back off of the Gulf. And then an upper disturbance will likely trigger a better chance of rain by the early part of next week.
Well, Jefferson Parish Transit is still offering free bus service in the aftermath of Hurricane Ida. It runs on 6 different routes with some in Metairie, Kenner, Avondale, Lapalco, and near the Huey P. Long Bridge. Services are from 8:30 a.m. to 4 p.m. every day. For a full schedule of bus routes, you can go to our website, WWLTV.com.
Maintenance on the Claiborne Bridge connecting New Orleans Upper and 9th Wards got underway this afternoon. That vertical lift bridge malfunctioned late last night, causing 2 cars to fall about 4.5 feet. According to New Orleans EMS, 1 person was taken to the hospital and 6 others refused treatment. We are told that one person who was hurt received minor injuries. Last night around 11 o'clock, there was that malfunction causing a section to lift about 4.5 feet. That caused 2 cars to fall onto the stationary part of the bridge. The bridge falls under the care of the State Department of Transportation. It was closed for a couple hours this afternoon for maintenance. A spokesman with the agency would only say what happened is under investigation and that workers are trying to figure out what caused it.
Well, tomorrow, Mayor Cantrell says the city of New Orleans will begin the process of bringing back those 800 or so senior citizens and other residents who were bussed out of the city to state shelters. Now, after the city removed them from what it called unsafe conditions at local senior centers. Now, the city says the 8 of the 9 complexes, they've been checked and are okay to once again house residents.
We are working with Entergy and our state partners, again, to identify and transport our residents back to the city of New Orleans. Colin will give you more information on this, but we are absolutely prepared and preparing ourselves for the return of our residents coming from these state-run shelters back to Orleans Parish, again, which will begin on tomorrow. Our team, along with the state fire marshal and state agencies where applicable, will be and have been thoroughly inspecting the 9 senior apartment and living facilities that we had to close as a city. The building evaluation and strike team, led by Peter Bowen, who you'll hear from, evaluated several and cleared for them to reopen. He'll give you more information on that. You know, as you heard me say, I wanted to make certain that these facilities, these buildings, the apartments are in compliance prior to our people moving back in. And surely making sure that they are deemed habitable for our residents.
And we know that as many of you start to head back to the area, or if you're still sticking it out, you're wondering where you can get supplies.
Yeah, especially if you need to get medicine or supplies to fix your home. So a number of pharmacies are open on both sides of the lake, including a number of Walgreens and family-owned businesses. And this is just a small number of those that you can visit.
There are also quite a few ATMs in operation, something we have definitely needed, including those at Gulf Coast Bank, as well as ones located in a number of gas stations and hotels. Now, as far as getting supplies for making repairs, most Lowe's and Home Depots across the area have reopened, as well as some Ace Hardware stores and others.
And now we know this was a long list to take in, but you can find a much more detailed list on our website, WWLTV.com. Just look under the Open NOLA headline, and we'll be updating that list as soon as we see more businesses reopen.
The RTA has extended operating hours. Buses will run from 6 a.m. to 7:30 p.m. They will keep operating on a modified Saturday schedule, and there will also be buses taking the place of the Canal and St. Charles streetcar lines. The RTA is still not collecting fares.
All right, we'll be right back.
Sunday, 3:25 in Jacksonville. The Saints play the Green Bay Packers, and the Saints enter that game really healthy. Today, they got wideout Traquan Smith back. They got rookie first-rounder Peyton Turner back. The one problematic area continues to be at cornerback. Ken Crawley, who looked like he would be a starter during training camp, did not practice again today. He was actually the only guy on the Saints injury report. We should see a lot of rookie Paulson Adebo, but against Aaron Rodgers, that is a tall task Sunday. Now, by week 2, the Saints should be fine at cornerback. Today, the Saints traded for Bradley Roby. Roby, an 8-year NFL veteran, first with Denver, and then the last 2 seasons in Houston. He figures to step in and start, but right now, he's serving an NFL suspension for this week only, so the Saints will not have him until week 2. And it was interesting today, too, because in Jameis Winston's Wednesday media availability heading into his first start as a Saint, most of the questions were not about football, but about bringing hope and relief to Southeast Louisiana.
Got to represent for them. We feed off them. You know, they're persevering and they're being resilient right now. We have to do the same. You know, it's a lot of people that are in way more difficult situations than we are. We're blessed. We get to go out and play a game that we love. We have, the majority of us, we have our families with us. We just praying that everyone else's family is safe and secure in New Orleans. But again, the objective is to go out there and bring some excitement to the city of New Orleans by going out there and winning a football game. I think that'll do a lot.
He's right. That would absolutely do a whole lot. We've got an Eye on the Black and Gold special tomorrow night at 6:30 to get you ready for the game. And Chris Franklin, Tropical Storm Mork/Mindy. Will it be a problem in Jacksonville?
No, Mindy, no Mork. Mindy is moving so quickly. By tomorrow midday, it'll already be east of Jacksonville. It's actually just about ready to make landfall, the center of the storm near Port St. Joe. So that's kind of south of Panama City. For us, though, no impacts. Drier air starts moving in tomorrow. We'll start to feel the difference through the midday afternoon. High of 89 degrees with clearing skies. Beautiful Friday, Saturday, even a nice day on Sunday, although the humidity starting to make a comeback, and then scattered showers and storms will return for early next week. But that drier air for the next several days will really make it feel more comfortable for early September here.
All right, looking good. And the forecast, too. Thank you.
Hey.
Thank you for watching this extended edition of the Eyewitness News at 6.
We'll have the 7 o'clock news conference from Jefferson Parish for you on our website, and we'll see you right back here at 10.